Hi, welcome to my channel. In this channel, I discuss the impact individuals, groups, organizational structures, and organizational processes have on behavior within organizations or within society. And today we are going to focus on community responsibility versus individual freedoms as have been affected by Covid-19, the pandemic itself, and the mitigation factors that we as humanity have proposed to take to mitigate the pandemic and also to make sure that it comes to an end. The thing here is that we have grown to believe that our freedoms as individuals give us power to do what we think is good for ourselves. But our responsibility to ourselves extends to the communities in which we find ourselves, whether they be our families, our larger communities in which we live, our clans, our tribes, in whatever form they come, and society at large. And we have come to believe that what we believe to be good for us is good for the general society. The challenge here is that we may believe or know something to be true when it isn't true. But it's our right to believe what we believe. And it's our right to know what we know to be true. The challenge is that if what we know to be true is not true, and the next door neighbor has no right to tell us what to believe in, but then if our information puts the neighbor at risk, where does our individual freedom end or start, and where does our community responsibility start? I'll put on my mask today just to illustrate a point. It's not because I've got somebody in my office here. No, it's not. I don't have anybody in my office. I'm all alone, but I'll put on the mask. Just to make a point. This mask makes sure that if I speak, any saliva that comes on or the droplets that come from my mouth does not spread over the room, and therefore is not be able to touch anybody, or will not. I will not. Nobody else will inhale those droplets, so that they are infected if I am infected with COVID-19. It's relatively uncomfortable to put on this mask continuously. So, to me, I like to feel okay, I like to feel free. But if my feeling free endangers my neighbor or the person next to me, where does my responsibility to that person start? Or do I have any responsibility at all to the next person other than myself? What if my affecting the other person affects me as well? The point we have to make here is what we know and believe may affect somebody else and may affect society at large. So, just starting with COVID-19 and its ability to spread from one person to another, whether I as a person can be able to wither it, go over it for a few days, 14 days, and I'm well. Doesn't matter if the person I infect is not able to handle it, and then they have adverse reaction to the extent that they put their life at risk. do I have, as a person, do I have a responsibility to ensure the next person is safe? Or am I only concerned about me and me alone? If I have any responsibility to my neighbor, the discomfort of putting on this mask should be worthy my ability to protect the next person. Even if I, as a person, would be able to wither the COVID-19 infection. That's the mitigation factor number one, the wearing of the mask. It doesn't matter what I believe or how I feel. It matters that I have a responsibility to the larger society to ensure that even though I may be able to wither the danger, my neighbor may not be able to wither that danger, and I have a responsibility to ensure that I don't put them through unnecessary danger. The next point is self-distancing. It's Christmas time, it's holiday time, and everybody thinks that this is what they normally do. Holiday days, they meet together and talk with friends and family. That's all right. But for this year, we have to look at the long term. Is it okay to continue doing what we normally do this year and run the danger of not doing it next year with the people we love? Your individual need or responsibility to continually do what you normally do, does it override your community responsibility to ensure that the people around you this year will be around next year, or if they are not around, that it will not be because of you? Something to think about. We don't want to be the cause of our loved ones not being there next year, even if we ourselves will be there if we think we are strong enough to do it. So, the impact you as a person or you as a group and the processes that you go throughout the years of meeting together, the structure of a family, of a group, how you impact the behavior in your group and in the society as large will determine who will be there next year, if at all. This is something to consider, to think about before making decisions of individual freedom. Where does individual freedom end and where does our community responsibility start? And then this leads us to the other mitigation factor that is coming online, the factor of vaccination. Again, I'm removing mask just because I'm alone in my office. Everybody has an opinion about innovations of science and how they come to. But we know for sure that if 60 to 70% of the population does not take vaccination, all the effort that went into finding a vaccine will be lost. We also know that we have no power to force people to take a vaccination. We only have the ability to communicate non-violently to people with empathy, so that at least 70% of the population in the world see the need to take the vaccination for either themselves or for their loved ones. That's where the challenge is. It's always easy to tell people, stand in my shoes. But taking your own advice and standing in other people's shoes is very difficult. And this is to the scientific community and the people who believe that the vaccine works. Because we need to stand in the shoes of the people who believe either it doesn't work or there is some other notorious reason behind it that will make them not take the vaccine. For the last 3 weeks, I have been having discussions about the vaccine with various people, and sometimes it's very frustrating because I think that people should be able to understand the way or think the way I think. But in my work as a consultant, I normally tell people to stand in the other people's shoes. I found that that is the most difficult advice to take myself, because I have had to step back and think so that I can be able to stand in the shoes of the people who either have fear of the vaccine or believe that somehow the people who developed or financed the development of the vaccine had ulterior motives that will, on a cost-benefit basis, be adverse to them. And you know, it falls on people like me, people who believe in the science, people who trust the process that made the vaccine available, to be able to empathize with those people who don't, and then understand them from where they stand or sit. That's a very challenging position to be. But considering that what they believe and know to be true will affect our ability to survive, should give us an incentive to be able to sit down and listen to their fears, to their beliefs, and try to bring them to our side so that we can make the 70%. This pandemic is one thing that nature threw at us, such that we should be able to talk to people who we would otherwise ignore, because our survival depends on them. Figure that out. Our survival, the survival of the people who believe in science, does not depend on the knowledge they have, but depends on their ability to translate that knowledge in a form understandable and believable by those people who don't believe and don't know. That's a tough call. Whatever you know, however much you can afford the vaccine, if your neighbor who doesn't believe in the vaccine, who doesn't trust the people who developed it or financed it, or who doesn't trust the process it was used to develop it, don't come on your side and make the 70% of the population who take the vaccine, you are taking the vaccine, doesn't matter. It's hard work. It's hard work. Not for the people who don't believe, but for the people who believe and trust the system to learn to communicate with empathy, with understanding, from the shoes of those who don't believe and believe and trust, so that we can develop that trust. Remember, this is a pandemic. It's spreading from person to person, and it doesn't respect. It doesn't matter whether how much money you have in the bank. It doesn't matter how much education you have. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. That knowledge you have, if your neighbor doesn't have it and doesn't trust it, it doesn't matter to you. So this is a hard task to do, and I think it's giving us an opportunity to be able to take science and develop trust to the people who don't know it, who don't trust it, to break it down in a language they understand, not to stand on a hill and think that those can be left behind, because we are made in a situation, we are in a situation such that they determine whether we are able to successfully bring COVID-19 under control or not. And we do not have executive authority to force them to believe it. So we have to communicate, we have to talk, we have to listen. Listen to their fears. Irrational or not, those fears are real. The fears and the mistrust of the system, of the big pharma, of governments. We have come this far because we have not developed that trust. All our institutions have always left people who don't believe behind, because they say we'll go with the majority. Now the majority doesn't matter, because it's that minority, the one that doesn't believe and trust in the system, that will determine whether our medication factors, our medication processes for COVID-19 will succeed. We need everybody to wear a mask, but we can't force them to wear a mask. Wearing a mask in public is an individual thing. Somebody must believe and want to put on a mask and put it on properly. You cannot walk around all the street telling people to put on a mask or put it on properly. You can't afford it. Somebody must want to do it. And for somebody to want to put on a mask properly, we must communicate the reason and bring them to understand why. Bring them to the fact that they may not be at risk, but the other person they meet may be at risk. And we must bring that empathy to them, that they must be able to empathize with that person. They may not know, but is a human being like them. We must make them understand that they may not be at risk, but the people they congregate together with may be at risk. And it's for a short time, and this will be over. We must bring them to believe that the vaccine, the process of creating the vaccine, is trustable. We cannot just tell them it's trustable. We have to explain to them why. And we have to explain that the people, the structures that did the research and funded the research had no notorious reasons to do it. They just wanted to solve a problem for humanity. And we all cannot do the same thing all the time. Everybody has his job or his specialty. So they just happen to be scientists, and the others happen to be people with money to fund it. That explanation is very important. And after that, empathize. Don't look down on people who may not be able to believe what you're telling them at first time go. translate the research, translate the technical terms, explain. So our responsibility is to let people know that, okay, everybody has individual freedom, but their freedom is mitigated by the community responsibility they have to each other, humanity has to each other. And COVID-19 has shown that. The COVID-19 has shown us that we are interdependent. From China to the United States to Kenya to Africa to Europe, we are all dependent. We are interconnected. And what happens in one place affects another person. And nobody is safe until everybody is safe. To be able to bring that and bring that empathy to everybody, to make sure that we are our brother's keeper, we'll make sure that we bring this pandemic to an end. And that the impact individuals and groups, social structures and organization structures, social processes and organization processes have on individual behavior is very important. This is my call today. We need to be able to bring our weakest link. We are as strong as our weakest link. We are as strong as the people who do not believe or trust in the processes and the structures of science and innovation. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we reduce or eliminate completely that mistrust by